Good afternoon, I'm Meteorologist Bailey Braun, and this weekend we've still got some sunny skies hanging out across Alaska, but there is a change on the way with a little bit of a snowy mix moving in for a few regions across the state. Now, I did want to start off today showing you your national forecast, so if you can bear with me for at least just 4 minutes or so, it's not going to be that long, just a couple of minutes to show you what's going on across the lower 48. Now, of course, here in Alaska, we're no strangers to freezing rain and heavy snow, but this is a look at what we're projecting for tonight around 8:30 in the afternoon. So you can see that big band of moisture stretching all the way from Texas all the way out to the Virginias. Now, this is bringing snow and freezing rain to areas that rarely ever see these kind of conditions, and that's why it's so hazardous. Of course, here in Alaska, we know that freezing rain is pretty treacherous when it comes to these roads. I mean, even these roads in Anchorage right now aren't too great, so just imagine how it is for people in the south where they don't have any salt or plows or even just snow tires in general. It does become pretty dangerous, so that's how that system is impacting people. And then you see that line moving through, that little orange, red, yellow, green. That is that's a cold front moving in from low pressure to the south, and that's beginning to wrap up all across the southern region. Now, that's when, again, this is paired with the snowy mixture all the way up into the northeast. So the northeast corridor is about to get hit pretty hard with some heavy snowfall. New York is expected to get around a foot of snow, and that's for the state, not even for the city. The state of New York is going to get around a foot of snow. Maryland is going to see about 5 to 8 inches, maybe even a little bit more, but temperatures are dropping significantly. Yesterday, temperatures in Texas were in the teens, where they're typically in the 50s and 60s. Even in Minnesota, we're seeing temperatures that the interior saw a few weeks ago into the negative 20s and even into the negative 30s. So wind chill is impacting a lot of the lower 48, but you can see that cold front moving through, and that's bringing a lot of thunderstorms as well as a lot of wet weather as well. So it's really important to keep this in mind, that the kind of weather we have here in Alaska, when it hits people in the lower 48, it's not quite the same, but it is very, very impactful. So that's just a look at what's going on across the lower 48. Now, here's just a look at these temperatures as they begin to shift. Some of these temperatures reaching all the way into single digits when they aren't typically in the single digits, but then you can see that change moving through St. Louis, seeing about 0 degrees, and even up into New England, they're seeing pretty serious temperatures down into the teens. So New York City dropping down to 13 degrees, and this is impacting, again, half of the lower 48, all the way from Denver, all the way to Boston. That's where we're seeing impacts like this. So it's kind of interesting just to see, how weather impacts people, and obviously we all know weather is a really big part of daily life. So as we look at our Alaska forecast, temperatures right now relatively normal all across Anchorage. You can see kind of that thin upper level layer of those clouds. We do have a change moving in, so you will still see some sunny skies for Sunday. However, you will mostly see overcast skies by the later afternoon hours, especially into the evening. That's when that change comes, with low pressure building in, bringing us some snow on Monday for South Central. Now, the interior is also staying relatively dry for right now. Some flurries, but all across the region, these temperatures are on their way back down to the negatives. Now for Juneau, staying pretty dry as well, but that change is also going to impact areas across southeast Alaska. So first alert weather day will be in effect for Monday for South Central. This is just the change in the forecast. It's not that it's anything insane, it's just, hey, letting you know the last few days have been really sunny, so now here's that change for snowy weather. So that snow will return early for next week, beginning Monday morning, early Monday morning, before you even wake up. That's going to impact your daily commute, and that snow will last all the way through Tuesday. So your morning commute to your afternoon commute Monday, that's going to be impacted. But if we manage to get 5.2 inches of snow, that will push Anchorage to its snowiest January on record. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and we'll see if we make it that far. But with our satellite and radar, wanted to point out this big band of moisture that's stretching all across the Alaska Peninsula, pushing all the way down into parts of the Pacific Ocean. So this is where that moisture is coming from. That's going to bring us some of that wet weather for areas like southeast, and even some of that snowy weather for South Central. Now, these aren't the only areas that will be impacted. Areas along the Bristol Bay area are also going to be impacted, but that's going to be for tomorrow morning. So they're going to feel some of the early impacts with some freezing rain on the way. Bay, and this is just going to bring a nice little glaze of ice. So just be careful anytime you're on the roads, and just be aware that that is going to come for you for tomorrow morning. Now, with our jet stream forecast, you can see that what we had was high pressure all across the state, highlighted mostly in green, but that's beginning to break away as we approach into Monday. Then Monday, we're going to see low pressure from the south that's hanging out in the Gulf. You can see it peaking up just a little bit, highlighted in blue. That's pushing up, and this is going to mix in with this low pressure up to the north, and that's going to bring in more of that wet weather as well as these overcast skies. But the good news is that these temperatures really aren't going to be impacted too significantly. Of course, areas to the interior and western Alaska, you will see a change in these temperatures as this week progresses. That's when you're going to drop back down to single digits and mostly into the negatives. But for areas like southeast and south central, these temperatures are going to stay the same more or less. So as we look ahead, you can see just a little bit better what we're expecting, especially for the overnight hours into areas like Dillingham, where that freezing rain is likely to occur as some of that moisture pushes into the region. This is mostly true for these coastal areas along Bristol Bay. But then you notice that by tomorrow afternoon, more of that rain and snow begins to push into southeast Alaska. So if you're in southeast, brace for some of this snow to hit you by tomorrow afternoon as these temperatures sit below freezing. But then you'll notice that it does begin to shift into more of a rainy mix. So that rain will transition by Monday morning into the overnight hours Sunday into Monday. That's when you can expect more of this rain to move in. But for south central, that snow is going to push in for Monday. That'll last all day on Monday, even pushing into Tuesday a little bit. So then you can see that second frontal system will begin to move in by Monday night. We'll see how that begins to impact south central and southeast, but overall, just brace for some of this wet weather and get ready to shovel just a little bit more. But these wind gusts across the state staying relatively calm. Everything is really centered around the Aleutians right now. That's where we're seeing these windiest conditions. So Cold Bay at 54 miles per hour. I want you to know, if you live in the Aleutians, you can expect some of these winds to continue all the way through tomorrow as well as into Monday. So these winds are going to stick around, even pushing up into the 60 miles per hour. So get ready for some strong wind gusts, but for south central, that snow is really going to pick up Monday morning all the way through Monday. Now, right now, we're estimating about 4 to 6 inches of snow. Of course, that could be just a little bit more. Now, a lot of model data has been varying quite a bit and fluctuating as what we saw yesterday compared to today, but 4 to 6 inches is the baseline for what you can expect to see. So I'll update you tomorrow and see if those numbers have changed, but as of right now, 4 to 6 inches into areas like Anchorage and just across south central in general. So for southeast, again, brace for more of that wet weather, mostly pushing in for tomorrow afternoon. However, areas like Petersburg, Sitka, you will see more of that mixture moving in, more of that rain and snow mix that could take place just a little bit earlier into the later portion of the morning or early afternoon hours, but otherwise mostly pushing into the evening and overnight hours. But these temperatures are still warm. They will continue to climb through the week, but the interior is going to see the opposite. Temperatures will decline, but the good news is that Monday will be your coldest day, with lows dropping to negative 20, but these highs will still stay around the negative teens. So a little bit colder than what you've had the last couple of days, but at least you can get through Monday like the rest of us, and then you're back to some slightly warmer, less frigid temperatures. So for Delta Junction and for areas like Tok, you might see some flurries for tomorrow. That's not going to be anything too crazy. Maybe a trace of snow, if anything, but otherwise very light accumulation. And flurries in Fairbanks are also likely during the overnight hours, but again, don't expect anything too crazy in terms of accumulation, just a trace if anything. Now for the North Slope, temperatures on their way back down. You can already tell close to negative 20 in Utqiagvik, but the good news is that you are up to 2 hours and 16 minutes of sunlight, and you're only on the upswing. So by the end of February, you will have a few more hours of daylight, so enjoy that as well, but mostly dry weather for you tomorrow. Again, some flurries lingering for Dead Horse, but otherwise staying mostly cloudy to partly sunny. Western Alaska, mostly sunny or completely clear. This is mostly for areas along Bristol Bay, again, where you're going to see a little bit more of that wet weather and that wintry weather, but otherwise mostly sunny across the region with highs near 22 degrees in Nome, and these temperatures are also going to begin to drop as the week progresses. That's when you're going to drop back into negatives, mostly for the overnight hours, but these high temperatures will drop back down close to single digits, if not to single digits. Now for the Aleutians, this is where that wet weather is already lingering. Expect some light rain, nothing too crazy, just very, very light drizzle, but wind gusts in Cold Bay up to 45 miles per hour. Again, like I'd mentioned, these wind gusts are going to climb up to 60 miles per hour potentially for Monday, so just get ready for some gusty times, but temperatures around 40 degrees, so that's pretty normal for this time of year. Now for South Central, I want to let everyone know, and if you're in South Central, most of the region is going to be mostly sunny throughout most of the day. It's really in the afternoon hours when these overcast conditions begin to move in. Temperatures are still relatively warm and also relatively normal for this time of year, but all of these overnight lows drop below freezing, so get ready for that. But otherwise, mostly sunny until the afternoon approaches, and then that's when that low pressure will really begin to settle into the area into the overnight hours. And for Monday morning, again, that's when that snow will begin to move in, affecting your morning commute and also affecting your afternoon commute whenever you make your way back home on Monday night. So again, first alert weather day for Monday, just with the change in the forecast going from sunny skies to that snow that we haven't seen for a little while, but that snow will linger and stay residual for Tuesday and even into Wednesday. But these temperatures, like I'd mentioned, they're still staying pretty normal into the 20s and dropping or climbing back up into the 30s by Wednesday and Thursday. And for Fairbanks, like I mentioned, again, Monday, those lows will drop to -20, the coldest day of the week, but then you're back up to the positives by middle of the week. For Juneau and Southeast, wet weather in the forecast throughout these next several days. Wet weather for tonight and tomorrow, and especially through the rest of the week. Even into the weekend, expect some snow. So temperatures really begin to drop by Friday, but otherwise they're still relatively warm into the 40s. So that's pretty nice, nothing too crazy. I know not everybody loves first alert days, and that's okay. We're just letting you know that's what you can expect, a little change in the forecast. So hopefully you can enjoy the sunshine while it's still out for today and most of tomorrow. But in the meantime, if you ever have any weather questions or concerns or anything, please feel free to reach out. We love to give you guys whatever you need, any kind of information that you feel is important. We want to give that to you. So I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday and a great rest of your Sunday. Of course, I'll be back for Sunday, so I'll give you more information on that snow total and more details on what you can expect for Monday as well. So in the meantime, have a great night, and just stay safe and stay warm.